how to deal with the issues of it, but I think that we can't wait that much longer. We have to put an end to this, the threat of fossil fuels. And that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Is there someone who didn't get a chance to sign up that wanted to speak?
Oh, him.
My name is Skip Arthur. I'm the chairman of the Conservation Advisory Committee, and I want to clear up an issue that dealing with the concerning the February 19th CAC meeting. There was a question about that, and George Ritter has concluded that we were in compliance with the open meetings law. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that I overlooked? Come to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
I'm Sean Brooks. I live right down the road on Washington Avenue. And as a student of the Socrates High School, I do find it concerning that there would be such risks to toxic fumes in the air. I do find it concerning that if something were to happen during school hours per se, not only would the Socrates High School be impacted mightily, also would Cahill, a very young generation, which if, say for example, like I said, this happens during school hours, the preschool, the elementary school, and the high school would all be affected. How are we gonna get all of those kids out in the same time frame to somewhere safe? From my understanding, there's roughly a 5-mile radius that would be impacted. Now, the severity of that radius from the 1 mile to 3 mile to 5 mile does get lesser. But the main point being, within that 1 mile of the most dangerous toxic fumes would be all 3 schools filled with children. That not only would include me, but that would include my peers, that would include future generations. I don't know if we're willing to risk literal generational lives that would, if not die within months, years, or if they did survive, who knows how long that would last. The catastrophic impacts of this would be devastating. It would last literal generations. And that's my time.
Thank you, Sean. It's nice to see a young person come out. Approaching to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, just share your name when you get there.
My name is Pat Reynolds and I'm from Berkeley Heights. And we all know that there's a shortage of housing already here, every place. Kingston, Pearlie, here, nobody can find a place to live. And we have a lot of people that are homeless in the area, that they're putting in motels and all that kind of thing. So, are you gonna have a plan for people? I have to move out of my house, where will I go? Will I be able to bring my clothes? Will I be able to bring my books? Will I be able to bring anything? Or do I just get moved out? So I wondered if you're gonna have an answer for that before you accept the program. Because we all need a place to live. And it's no fun when you're as old as I am, you have to go find a place different than what I have. So I would like to know if you can answer that question.
Thank you. Didn't see any other hands? Going once, going twice? All right, thank you all for your comments this evening. Under supervisor's comments, I'm going to try to address some of the things that were raised during the public comment this evening. Quick friend, I'm a little bit disappointed about some of the information that's being offered. It's largely opinion-based, it's fact on social media, but we are all responsible for what information we choose to consume. We, and I stand by my statement that I shared with the Times Union reporter, we have absolutely been transparent on this matter. When the foils came in, we have responded to those in an appropriate manner. Mind you, also, those FOIL requests come with the threat of an Article 78 proceeding, which is fine. That is our right to information. But the posture of answering that FOIL takes a legal component to it. And it's incumbent upon us to respond in that category. So if you get a FOIL response after threatening legal action from our attorney, that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. That should be somewhat expected. Also, we had multiple public forums when this matter came to public light. And the NYSERDA, Vassar Brothers, and New York City Firemen presentation came at our invitation, which I am immensely grateful for. And I encourage all of you, if you have not taken the time to watch that, please do. It was very, very enlightening in my understanding of this type of facility, why it's being considered as an addition to the electrical grid, what has been done to address many of the legitimate concerns. I live here too. I have no intentions of leaving this community, which I have the honor of representing, but I expect to live here till the end, raise my family here, and enjoy my grandchildren here. I don't want this community to be tainted either, but having this conversation in a box and not acknowledging the impact that fossil fuels are having on our water and plastics having on our water and in the environment, we want to think ahead a little bit here and start to entertain some alternative possibilities. Not even saying that this one is the correct one, but getting to that. This, and I'm also disappointed because the folks have foiled and received the letter that was issued. This is the legal basis from the building department as to why this project would be entitled to the planning process. That letter was issued in the spring of 2025, I believe, and Key Capture was the one that received it at their request, and they were advised that under our zoning law, in the industrial zone, and that's an important component to this entire conversation, in the industrial zone only, battery energy storage is an allowable use for energy distribution because it is acknowledged in there. Not as a battery, but as a tool for energy distribution, which can happen in a lot of ways. In Gilboa, they pump water up above the dam, they store it there when the energy prices are low, and when the energy prices go high, they release the water and create energy. That's an energy storage facility. Batteries are a new model for an energy storage facility, but energy storage is not a new concept. And ISO, the state agency that oversees all of this, made a pretty clear and compelling case about why we need more peaker capacity in our energy grid. It was startling to me to hear them publish that in the summer of 2025 and 2024, the grid became so stranded for electricity supply that they asked hospitals and large commercial institutions to turn on their emergency generators to provide supplemental power to get us through the heat wave in an effort to avoid brownouts. That is not a new thing in our country, unfortunately, either. We all watch the news. I believe it was about 5 years ago, Texas suffered a significant brownout during a cold spell. Many people were left stranded in their homes, and there was loss of life as a result of that brownout experience. In response to that, Texas, of all places, now leads the country in the deployment of battery energy storage. Not because of environmental reasons, but because there's an economic case, and this is a way to balance the grid. Energy demand is increasing. Many of us have heat pumps in lieu of traditional heating and air conditioning units. By using those, we are more dependent on electricity because we are not burning a fossil fuel to create heat. But the side effect of that is consumption on the grid is going up, and the grid is reaching its full capacity. So we're either going to invest in much more power distribution, power lines and substations and things of that, or alternative energy storage systems that are local enough to meet those high demand periods. It is not a surprise to me that the battery energy companies are following the same pattern as the solar fields did when that was being supported by state efforts. They all want to be close to that large transmission line because the interconnection is a challenge to get those agreements with utilities, and it's a difficult thing to do. The closer you are, the more it's easier to make those connections to the grid and more efficient. So clearly, they picked the best spot. They are right next to I think it's the second largest substation in that transmission facility. And it happens to be in the industrial zone. And the reason I keep reinforcing the comments about the industrial zone is there's been calls for moratoriums this evening. We have a moratorium in Saugerties. There are, I wrote down quick and I'm gonna miss one, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different zoning designations in our community. Ranging from low density residential to highway business to industrial, and each one of those has a use classification associated with it about things that can and cannot be held within those zoning districts. The only one that is eligible for this type of facility is the industrial zone. So that is where Key Capture found a location that's suitable to their aspirations, and they applied to the planning process. The zoning book is what we control. We passed legislation, we work very hard with our advising committees, with the public. We go through round after round of public hearing, listening to people's concerns to try to address concerns when we modify the zoning law. Now that BESS is becoming prevalent, and it's not just Saugerties, we have the same problem neighboring in the town of Ulster, and they're not going to be the last one. It's happening. Poughkeepsie just went through it. I was reading about a town north of Albany that is struggling with it as well. It's not an easy thing. This is new. We are learning as we go, in many cases just as much as you are, and we're going to continue that effort to learn. But we don't have to fear this in anything but the industrial zone for now. And the reason I'm predicating that is the incentives that battery energy storage provides are going to motivate commercial users, large residential users, some government facilities to want to have smaller scale BESS facilities in their own, behind their electric meters. And the reason for that is going to be commercial users in large residential and government. We pay demand charges on top of the per kilowatt charge. BESS provides a very unique opportunity to capture those demand charges. If a factory runs all day, they're paying for air conditioning, lights, and the rest of it all day. At night, their energy consumption goes way down, but they're gonna be billed for their peak demand during the day. They're not gonna get relief because of the nighttime. So if you had a battery type of facility attached to that particular facility, they can even out those demand charges. When we had the presentation from NYSERDA, that was openly acknowledged and discussed in their presentation, and it struck me because that was something that I had not even anticipated until I got the opportunity to see that presentation, which I saw 3 times, and I learned a lot all 3 times, and I probably would benefit from learning again. Not to discount any of the concerns any of you shared. I share many of them as well. But that is why, and I'm very glad many of you acknowledge SECRA. SECRA will decide what type of action is first of all and second of all, and I'm not going to prejudice the planning board's opportunity to decide whether they're going to be lead agency or how they're going to make their SECRA determination. But I will give them the credit that they're very thoughtful volunteers who are our friends and neighbors in this community who share many of the same concerns you do, and I trust that they're going to do a good job with this. And I don't think it's going to happen quickly because they're going to have to go through an educational experience with this as well. But I do believe that they will make a very sincere and good effort, assuming that it's going to stay engaged in the planning process. So when the building department issued the letter saying that they were entitled under the industrial zone to move forward, they started to, and they applied to the planning board, and that was just a preliminary application. No surprises that it was incomplete. That's kind of just a a sketch plan, talk about things, see where we're at. There's a lot of work to get done before some real planning happens. But residents who have the right to, and I encourage you to exercise all of your rights, challenge the decision. For now, the determination of the letter has been upheld. So there's two things that can happen. Either they can reapply to the ZBA under a different way, or someone can file an Article 78 with a judge. And then a judge will decide if the determination of the building department was correct or incorrect. But from our perspective, we are going, I don't want to speak for the entire board, my position is going to be that we are not going to intervene with their right to engage the planning process. That in no way guarantees them an approval. They are still have to suffer the process and work their way through it. If they can successfully do that, they will be eligible to seek a building permit. But there's no guarantee that they're going to be successful in doing that, or that they're going to have the patience to go through the entire process. Many times folks apply to the planning board, they get into it, and it doesn't work out. For whatever reason, that's fine. But I do have confidence that the planning board will handle it correctly and responsibly and in all of our shared interests. But we're not going to interfere with that. When I was a relatively new town board member, I had a terrible experience. We had an executive session. There had been what became a political issue involving a concrete batch facility. They were given guidance by the building department and actually got to the point where they were giving a building permit. There was a lot of political pressure on that town board. They caved under the pressure, or they were sensitive to the pressure, however you want to look at it, and they said, we are going to withdraw the building permit. That led to a terrible consequence for all of us because we ended up paying a substantial amount of money. Back then, the original settlement was like $3.5 million on a facility that probably was only going to be worth $1.5 million at the time. The numbers with this are significantly larger, and I don't want to put the town into that type of jeopardy. There's a process. If we follow that process and they earn the privilege to go through the planning board, I have confidence in the planning board. If we hijack that process, we have to bear the responsibility for that, and I do not want to put us as a community in jeopardy of doing something that my instinct tells me is not a good idea. We're not going to interfere with that privilege. As much as we complain about zoning restricting our right to put a garage or a shed where we want it, it also tells us a lot of things we can do that most of our neighbors may not like. And this is one of those things where it's not our opinion that matters, it's what the law says is possible. And for now, the interpretation is that the law says they have the right to the planning process. They don't have the right for an approval, they don't have any other right than they have the right to engage the planning board. And as I stated already, I have a lot of confidence and gratitude towards the work that those folks have done over the years, and many of them have been there for a pretty long time, and they get how that process works, and I suspect that they would do a great job on our behalf if it moves forward that way. There's no predication about how this is going to turn out. It could end up in legal maneuvering, I don't know. But protecting the process for residents to go through what they would like to use, the ZBA is at their disposal. This applicant has the property, responsible party for the property. They have right to the zoning law as it exists, just like we all do. And we have to, in my view, we have to respect the law. Going out on a limb there, I didn't speak to the rest of the board about that. That's my opinion. But we do have a moratorium in the rest of the community because that type of energy distribution is not allowed in the highway business, the recreational hamlet, the high density residential, the low density residential. So we have a lot of protection by default. Also, late in 2025, New York City was suffering with pests before probably anyone else. And they had some bad experiences. And through those bad